All right, a simple one here today. This will not be as long of a video as some of the others, I don't think, because when we talk about fugues and inventions, I'm actually going to be spending a lot of time in class talking about them. But the way fugues and inventions work, they are imitative genres, which means that a motive is presented in some way and then is imitated in other voices. Inventions can be 2 and 3 parts. Fugues, technically you could have a 2-voice fugue, but it is very rare. Usually 3 or 4. There are the occasional 5-voice and 6-voice fugues, and I think there are even more than that floating around out there. But we're going to concentrate on just what to do with the motives. When we get into class, we'll talk about the overall architecture of a fugue, and we'll run into terms like exposition, entry, episode, re-exposition, and coda. But for right now, we're going to just concentrate on what to do with motive of a fugue. Now, if you have a short motive, something like this, let me just play the first 4 bars here for you. Okay, that little motive, it's not much. I mean, it is literally mostly scalar. There's 1 leap in it. It's stepwise otherwise. Not all motives have that particular architecture, but you can see a definite contour to it. You can see it as a melody. It prefers steps to skips. If you look through the Well-Tempered Clavier, both volumes, you'll find all sorts of great, wonderful motives that can be used. When you have a motive, say, of this length, and it's usually used in a fugue, we refer to it as a fugue subject. And the very first voice of the fugue will present the subject in its original form, and that's what you base your analysis off of. Then you have the answer, which is the first imitation of the subject. Now, sometimes it's what we call a real answer, and sometimes it's what we call a tonal answer. In a real answer, it is transposed, usually up a fifth or down a fourth. In tonal fugues, it likes to work that way. If it begins on the tonic, as this particular subject does, it's up a fifth, down a fourth. If the subject begins on the dominant scale degree, on the 5th scale degree, then it's not uncommon to see the answer start on the upper or the lower tonic. It's this interesting 5-1-1-5 relationship we've got going in here, and we'll discuss that in more detail as we go along. But a real answer is the subject transposed exactly. Both size and quality of intervals remains exactly the same, which means it can get chromatic, as we see with this one. So here's a real answer to our original subject. As you can hear in that one, the subject is simply transposed up a perfect fifth, and all pitches in the subject are transposed exactly up a perfect fifth. In a tonal answer, there are changes made to it. The intervals usually stay the same size, but their quality is adjusted to make sure we don't modulate. We stay in the same key. We don't have to deal with any unnecessary chromaticism. And sometimes, if you look at the original here, do, mi, fa, sol, it covers the area from do to sol, from 1 scale degree 1 to scale degree 5. In a tonal answer, we don't want to overshoot that, so we adjust it slightly so it becomes sol to do. Sol, la, ti, do, ti, la, sol. Listen to the tonal answer. The contour is the same. We just made some subtle changes here and there so that we stay in C major. You can also invert a motive. And as with the answer, when you have a real inversion, you keep the size and quality of the intervals the exact same. You just flip them over. So any ascending interval becomes a descending interval and vice versa. Here's what the real inversion of that particular motive sounds like. You can see we can get pretty far afield at that point. And in a tonal inversion, again, you make changes to the quality, often size maybe, of the intervals, to keep it in the same key. So a tonal inversion of that subject sounds like this. There are two other things you can do with a motive, and these are rhythmic ideas. You can engage in what's called diminution, where you shorten all the note values by a certain percentage. In this case, I've halved all the note values, and that sounds a little something like this. And you don't have to diminish everything equally. You can do unequal diminution, and Olivier Messiaen liked to do that sort of thing. And then you have augmentation, which is where you take all the note values and you expand them by a factor. In this case, I have doubled all the note values, and that sounds something like this. In imitative genres, you will see these techniques and others, such as fragmentation, where, say, you take perhaps the first measure or two measures of the motive and manipulate just that. This will also be interspersed with episodes where the motive is not present at all and you just have free counterpoint. We will discuss some more of these things in class. In the meantime, please read Chapter 24 and do a lot of listening. If you look at your listening list, there's some Inventions and Fugues on there from J.S. Bach. I highly recommend them. And have a great day. We'll see you in class.